Meditation here. Okay, very welcome. Great way to start. Anyone completely new to Buddhism? All right, very welcome. Okay. So we're a Buddhist group under the guidance of Ringu Tulku, a Tibetan Buddhist master, and so we have weekly meetings on Tuesday to practice meditation and to explore Buddhist perspective on life. And we're also very fortunate to invite some of his longer-term students and meditators when we can to the UK. And some of you were here when Lama Wangmo came in October, so we're very fortunate to have Tenzin, who's been here twice before, I think, already. Yeah, so it's your third time, yeah. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation and to come again. So a little bit about Tenzin. How long have you been a monk, Tenzin? I don't remember.
I became a monk in 1998.
1998, okay.
18 years.
No, 18 years.
It's good maths.
Yeah. There's a reason for that.
That's really good. Oh yeah, okay. And Tenzin's studied with many different teachers and different traditions as well. And is currently the resident monk at Bodhicharya Berlin, which is Ringu Tulku's main centre in Europe, which is a really nice place and very easy to get to. I would encourage everyone to jump on a cheap Ryanair flight and go there one day if you can. And Tenzin is currently completing a 7 years master's program in Buddhist study and philosophy at a very esteemed institute in Italy called Tibetan Lama Tsongkhapa. But maybe that's enough for me.
Yes.
I don't know, you know more. So the idea of this retreat was to think about the new year, what makes life meaningful. So we're going to be discussing that kind of as a group, but from the Buddhist point of view, with Tenzin guiding that from the Buddhist tradition and practicing also meditation as well. So all very welcome. Hope you have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the invitation to Bodhicharya Kent, and thank you for your coming and your interest in the Dharma or interest in this topic. And hopefully I can give you some useful information or we can work out together some useful perspective on life which inspires you to make the best out of it. Nowadays there are many opportunities, how you can use your life, what you should do to have a meaningful life or to become happy, and we will look at this day on life from a Buddhist perspective. And the Buddhist perspective usually claims to be a perspective which is in line with reality. But you have to check yourself if this is really in line with reality or not, or if it is just Buddhist propaganda. Yeah, sometimes I feel a little bit like a person who says something from the point of view, you know, in Buddhism you start every topic by explaining the benefits of it to raise the interest, to raise the mind's interest into it. But sometimes it feels a little bit, you know, I'm just one of the many people who advertise, this is really important for you. You need this yogurt, you need this cheese, you need this or that to be happy. And now I come as a Buddhist monk. No, actually what you really need is this. So, but it's your task to check if there is really validity in it and if it makes sense. This type of propaganda I established today. And we start from the point of view what the title says. The title said, what makes life meaningful, and we start with to investigate, to look what actually would be a meaningful life, what would give life meaning. And this is already a good question, and there we start already with a Buddhist perspective, which claims to be a perspective which is in line with reality. And the claim is here that everybody basically has two wishes. Everybody wants to be happy, and everybody doesn't want to have any type of suffering or pain. So this is the claim, and now everybody has to investigate if this is really true, and if there is validity in this claim, and if this is really according to reality. Now, if you check and if you look inside, what is it I'm really, what do I really want? Correct, yeah? Grammar's correct. What do I really want? And there might pop up certain types of thoughts like, I want to have a partner, I want to have a job, or I don't want to lose my job, or I want this or that, or I want to win the lottery. But then if you look, why do you have these types of wishes? What's behind those wishes? Because you think if you win the lottery, if you have a good partner, you are happy. This is what makes you happy. And then other parts of the wishes could be, or what you say, another basis for the wishes could be like, I want to have a job because you want to secure your life. You don't want to have the suffering of being a homeless, living on the streets and have all those types of difficulties. Then even if you don't like to go for work, or if you don't like work, you are interested to get a job because you want to prevent these type of sufferings of being a homeless, not having enough to eat and drink, and having a lack of freedoms. So then if you really check behind all those wishes which come up in your mind, if you think, what do I really want, is basically, I want to be happy and don't want to have any type of suffering. That's why I wish for this and that. And it starts even in the morning when you get up. When you get conscious, again, from sleep, if you are awake, the mind already is drawn to what is pleasant. So if it is pleasant and nice to stay in bed, the wish rise, I want to stay in bed. But then, if you have some mundane wisdom, you understand, if I stay in the bed and I don't get up, future problems will arise, so you push yourself to get up. And then there is maybe a certain type of pain in the morning because it's uncomfortable to get up. And then you immediately, the next thought arises to elevate or to overcome this type of pain, and maybe you think about a tea or a coffee or nice breakfast or a cold shower, I don't know, to change this state of suffering into a more pleasant state. And from this moment onwards, moment by moment, you have type of thoughts, conceptions, and actions which should increase your happiness and which should decrease your suffering. And it goes from the morning to the evening. It goes day and night and day and night, and the pattern repeats daily. And actually it exists since our consciousness exists, and maybe just from the perspective of this life, even when we were a baby, it was just the same. Which made you happier. You had a natural wish to get it, to be in contact with it, not to be separated from it. And when you were unhappy, you expressed the unhappiness in certain type of ways, and you were happy again when the suffering was released. So now, if you check, from the time of birth, we have done a lot of actions, day and night, to achieve this happiness we are looking for, and to get rid of the suffering we don't want to have. But after all those millions or billions of actions, what is the state of affairs now? How much happiness there is and how much freedom from suffering there is. Actually, after all those hard work, over many decades, there should be a result. There should be more happiness and less suffering, but usually it's not the case. Usually, most often, children are more happy than the adults. Strange, why? And the elder you get, the more difficult, the older you get, the more difficult it is to be happy and to enjoy life. Actually, the more worries come. And life gets more and more complicated. And it seems sometimes the dogs lead a happier life than the human beings. Because a dog just can just lay down in the sun and rest and everything nice. He doesn't worry when the dog. It doesn't look like. Doesn't worry when do I get the next food. When the dog relaxes. But it's very difficult for human beings to relax, because even if you sit in the chair, there are so many thoughts, and those thoughts are connected with wishes. You think, if I have this wish fulfilled, I will be happy. If I have this wish fulfilled, I will be happy. But then actually you have a lot of wishes, but you never have the happiness you are looking for. And if you look, if you draw something like a conclusion from it, you could say, I worked a lot to achieve those type of wishes, but I was not able really to fulfill it. It's not yet, I'm not in a state where I can sit here and say, oh, it was really worth work so hard for the last 20 or 30 years or 40 years or 50 years or 60 years, and the amount of happiness I have achieved through all of my work is really worth the work. Now I can relax. It's never sufficient to work. And the reason is because the way or the objects we used, or the objects we desired to attain this happiness, were the wrong objects. This is what the Buddha says, basically. Usually we try to fulfill our wishes for happiness, or our wish for happiness, by consuming the objects of desire, which are the sense objects, basically, but not necessarily, could also be mental objects. Like if you are a researcher, you can have a lot of joy and theories and all those things. But those sense objects, like form, taste, smell, and so on, or tactile objects, they give a certain type of superficial satisfaction, but they do not have a long-lasting effect on the mind, and they don't have a guarantee within them, those objects, that they can lead us at any time to happiness. So for instance, if someone, or if we are sick, or if we have a depressed mood, you consume the yogurt or the honey or whatever you like, the coffee or the tea, and it doesn't really increase the happiness. It's a bit, it's not so nice as it was previously. And then even if you get really, if you get either a deep mental or a deep physical suffering, all those material objects don't help you really to overcome it. They are not really powerful enough to make you happy. And sometimes even they can lead to more suffering. Like for instance, certain types you like to eat when you are healthy, you don't like to eat if you got sick. They don't taste anymore. You can even have disgust for what you liked previously. So all those things change. And now the Buddha comes and says, this is because those type of enjoyments, the sense pleasures, they are like honey on a razor blade. So, but to make it, this was just, I'm just on the way to give an introduction what we are doing today, and to give you an idea what might be a perspective to find meaning in life, is to establish this idea that to understand what we are basically looking for. So the claim is everybody is basically looking for to be happy and to not have any type of suffering or pain. And the question is it really like this, or is it not like this? And if you are uncertain about if this is true or not, it's really worth to take time to investigate it and not to believe or think it might be like this, or you just believe because I said it, or you heard it somewhere else and it makes some sense, but really to understand yourself, to look within and to check, what is it I really want? What do I really want? And then listen to yourself. And a lot of answers might come. I want this, I want this, I want this. But what's behind all those wishes? I want to be happy. That's it. Now, even now, in this very tiny moment, at this moment, if I could do something like a finger snip and happiness arises in your mind, you will enjoy it because this is what you are looking for. And if I do something which destroys this happiness, like shouting on you, getting aggressive, you don't like it. And this response is there because there are those two basic wishes. So now, if you recognize these are the real underlying motives or wishes which permeate my whole life, my whole being, my whole existence. And all what I do, sometimes not unconsciously, but not very much, not without much thinking, but intuitively, is to fulfill those wishes. But in a way, there is not a result that the happiness is abundant and the suffering is almost overcome or is just less, and you are able to manage your happiness and you are able to manage your suffering and you are at ease and at peace. It's usually not like this. So, and this shows that most of the energy we have used to fulfill those two aims might have been directed into a wrong direction, might have been put into wrong places or onto wrong objects. And then it makes sense to reconsider life and the meaning of life and the actions we are doing from that perspective. So, but the funny point is, because if you ask about what is the meaning of life, it depends on the person who is looking on the life. What is the meaning of life? So we have to check, we have to find ourselves the answer. What is a meaningful life? What would give my life meaning? And from Buddhist perspective, it would be rather easy if I understand I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer. These are my basic motives, and all the other wishes just are based on those two wishes. Life would become meaningful if I would use my life to fulfill those wishes and to have more happiness and less suffering. This would give my life meaning because this is what I really want. So, and then the questions, if you have this, if you understand this point, and if you have an insight into this point, basically I want to be happy, basically I don't want to suffer. And if I use my life to fulfill those wishes, then actually at one point, let's say when we retire, we should be a happier person and a person who is able to cope with life and has lesser suffering. But usually you cannot see this much in people. There are some elderly people who are very happy, but then if you check why they are happy, and if you look at it a little bit more deeper, you can see their happiness is based on certain type of qualities they have. Like they have sometimes very open minds, a lot of generosity, and a natural interest in the well-beings of others. And they take delight and joy in making others happy, like their children or their grandchildren. So it are basically qualities what makes them happy. And then there are some people some elderly people who are very unhappy, and if you look what makes them so unhappy, so it can be certain types of mental patterns they got used to, like aggression, or even like ill intent, or having this type of, how do you call it? Bösartig, evil. If you have always negative thoughts, always think bad about others, those type of thoughts. If you have this, this also makes you a lot of, this also brings you a lot of unhappiness. So then the understanding in Buddhism is the happiness is not so much coming from the outside, but it's coming from within, how you relate your mind to yourself, to other beings, and to the world in general. So then if you want to be happy, you have to change your mind, basically. This is the understanding in Buddhism. So then making your life meaningful would then be working on your mind and changing and transforming your mind so that your mind serves as a basis to have more happiness and less suffering. And then now the term spiritual comes in, which means you have to work on your mind, and this would be a spiritual path or spiritual development. Okay, this just as a basic idea or basic introduction about this topic and today, and then we will look on certain type of methods and go a little bit deeper with the understanding what are real causes for happiness and what are the real causes of suffering, and how you can change, how you can use understanding to increase the causes of happiness and to experience more happiness, and how can use understanding to reduce the causes of suffering and thereby also experience less suffering or less problems. Good. So I would suggest now we make a brief prayer. We take refuge and cultivate bodhicitta, and then we do a meditation. I will introduce a meditation, and we will learn a thirst method, which helps us to experience more happiness and more peace, and to reduce the suffering. How do you usually do it? These type of things?
Usually do Tibetan 3 times, and once in English, and then the 4 measurables.
Could you guide this?
Yeah. Sanje chodang sochi chonam la chanchu patu dani kyamsu chi dagi jinso chi pe sonam ki jola penche sanje tropasho sanje chodang sochi chonam la chanchu patu dani kyamsu chi Daki jinso chipe sonam ki Jola penche sanje drupasho Sanje chodan soki chonam la Chanchu padu dani kyasu chi Daki jinso chipe sonam ki Jola penche sanje drupasho. In the Buddha Dharma Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the merit of my generosity and other virtues, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all beings. May all beings have happiness and its causes. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be separated from supreme joy, untouched by suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. So we will do 2 types of meditations now. First is just focusing the mind on our own mind,
and trying to recognize those two types of wishes here. And then we try to draw a conclusion by seeing how much we have achieved with respect to these two wishes, or what to say, how less we have achieved. It's just taking something like to see how it is. It's just seeing how the current state of affair within ourselves is. So this is the first type of meditation. I will guide a little bit through it. So the best is you try to sit straight and relax. And if you sit on a chair, it might be useful if your feet are on the ground. And try to raise your body so that the upper body is straight. You can rest your hands on your knees or in your lap. And try then to focus your mind on your breath. And detect the breath, recognize it. And try then to observe the breath, and when you exhale, then try to exhale longer, and while you exhale longer, let go all your tensions, your worries, heaviness and pain. So you extend the exhalation, and while you extend the exhalation, you let go all of the tensions, pain, worries, heaviness of body and mind. Then bring your attention to your shoulders, relax your shoulders and hold them on an equal level. Focus your attention on your hands, relax your hands, the fingers. Then bring your attention to your face. If you are very new to meditation, you can softly close your eyes. And if you are used to meditation, you can slightly open the eyes. And your gaze falls in front of you so that some light enters the eyes. Then focus on the muscles around your eyes and relax them. Let the muscles around the eyes become soft and relaxed. And then relax your mouth, your teeth, your lips. chin, your tongue. The mouth can be slightly open or slightly closed. The breath naturally goes through the nostrils. Then bring your attention towards your abdomen. And be aware how the abdomen is rising and falling. And for a while, focus your attention on the rising and falling of the abdomen. And by focusing on this object, cultivate concentration and calm down your mind. Do it soft and with ease. Don't apply pressure. Be gentle. And the abdomen is raising, you are fully aware that this is raising. And the abdomen is falling, you are fully aware that it is falling. Without losing the object of meditation, without wandering away, you train yourself to be fully aware about the raising and falling of the abdomen. Relaxed, soft, calm and clear. If your mind feels calmer now and more relaxed, then try to use this clarity of mind to cultivate insight. And then ask yourself, what do I really want? What is really important and matters the most for me? And then listen to the answers. Don't think answers, just listen to yourself. Be open whatever answer comes up to see and accept it. Maybe there are different answers, questions, what do I really want? And then try to look deeper. What is behind all those wishes? Actually, there is this basic wish, just to be happy. Or to prevent or to avoid suffering, problems, pain. And if you can see this clearly, then just accept it. Accept it, yes, I want to be happy. Yes, I don't want to suffer. And then try to see that those two wishes permeate your life. You had those wishes when you were young, when you grew old, and the wishes and objects of those wishes, they changed. When you were young, you decide certain types of toys or friends, and this changed when you grew old. Now you have other objects, different desires, different objects of wishes. You think, if I have those things, I would be more happy. And since we came to this earth, or since we were born, we worked so hard to fulfill those two wishes. And how much have we really achieved until now? So maybe, although we have these two wishes and worked so hard until now to fulfill those two wishes, maybe we really didn't understand what the true causes of happiness and suffering are, and put our energy or actions into a wrong direction. It could be, maybe it's not like this. And at the end of this meditation, let's do a small further investigation by checking what makes us happy from within and what makes us unhappy from within. Using an example, how do you feel if you see a puppy, a small cat, a small dog, or a baby? can imagine such a puppy, baby or kid, or remember an occasion, and a natural, a warm feeling arises in your mind, which we call affection, or love. And the moment this affection or love arises, you feel happy. And then consider a situation where aversion or aggression arises in your mind. Immediately also unhappiness arises in the mind, and there's no pleasant, happy feeling anymore. Now imagine you get used to this aggression. How would life feel? Or imagine you get used to this feeling, this type of affection towards all sentient beings, or at least some more. How would life feel? Now take another example. If you know His Holiness the Dalai Lama, if you have observed and seen it, you will see he has a lot of affections towards sentient beings, towards humans and animals. And he has so much joy and happiness. And I remember a person who is very aggressive, very angry, almost all of the time, so much suffering, so much pain. And then you can think, oh, what direction do I take? Maybe I can use my life to cultivate a mind that is happy, at ease, full of love, compassion, abundant with qualities that make me and others happy, and more free from things that disturb myself and others, like aggression, hostility and so on. And then we can conclude the meditation session by just relaxing. For a while you do nothing, you just relax. And accept everything as it is without wanting to change anything. Everything is fine as it is. Relax. just as it is. You can come back and stretch your legs, arms. Personally, I think this is an important point to first understand ourselves before we ask what is the meaning of life, and to really see, not to think. Really, this is what I really want. I want to be happy. Because especially in our society, many people are in contact with themselves. They do not really know what they want. You have certain types of wishes, and all your actions go to the outside, but usually they don't go into the inside. Usually people are not very much aware what's really going on in themselves. That's why sometimes you need therapy, because you're totally lost. You need someone who helps you to get back in contact with yourself and to understand what's going on in you. So now, if you really see, I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer, and if you also realize you have done so many actions to fulfill those wishes, but you have not achieved it, you understand there is something going wrong here. And this opens up your mind for inquiry. Maybe I should change something, or why is it that I don't have fulfilled those two aims? Why it seems like all my actions are wasted, because the amount of happiness I have after all this work is just not sufficient. It's not really, I'm not there where I want to be at. So, and then the answer the answers from the Buddha, or the answers from Buddhism come in. Here the understanding is that all those type of happiness which we achieve from the consuming of the sense objects is not really satisfying. It's not the sense pleasures are not the real causes of happiness. They can contribute to happiness, nobody denies this, but this type of happiness which is achieved by consuming the objects of desire is very short, is not long lasting, and is superficial. And that's why usually you have to consume a sense object again and again and again to have certain types of happiness, or to feel certain types of pleasure and happiness. But then the problem is that usually we call this type of happiness is happiness on a physical level, because this happiness is related to the sense organs, or the sense faculties. The sense faculties are part of the body, so that's why we call it physical happiness. But there is physical happiness is one type of happiness we can experience, but there is another type of happiness. This is called happiness going along with the mind, or mental happiness. This is associated with the mental consciousness. There are 6 types of consciousnesses. There's 5 sense consciousnesses and the mental consciousness. So then there can be two types of happiness. Physical happiness, which is happiness related with the sense consciousnesses, and mental happiness related with the mental consciousness. Now, the question is, what matters more, physical happiness or mental happiness? Now, if you look on times where your mind, which means the mental consciousness, is at ease, at peace, happy and flexible. Usually we call it happy mood or something like this. You have good moods. So if you wake up in the morning on a Sunday and you have a good mood, everything's fine, nobody is coming to the breakfast, although you prepared it, no problem. You want to enter the bathroom, oh, it's closed, someone, no problem. Or maybe in the when you make lunch, you spoil the food. Oh, no problem. we go eating pizza or something like this. So usually, if you have a happy mood, everything is, you feel more at ease, more flexible. You can change quickly, and outer circumstances cannot really make you unhappy. But then, this is a state. This is a mental state. No? So there is, you could say, there is mental happiness and a flexibility of mind. And then, if on the outer level, which means mainly things we experience on the basis of the sense consciousnesses, are different than our expectations, we can more easily cope with it. They don't contribute that we get upset or unhappy. Rather, we can even laugh about it in those days. But now imagine a Sunday when you get up with a bad mood. Nobody's coming to breakfast. You just prepared it. What's going on here? The bathroom is closed. Something is missing, like this and that. And then your husband or your wife comes and nobody says thank you or so. Then, oh. And then you spoil even the food, and then it bursts out of you. Actually, what bursts out is the unhappiness. And the same is true if you are sick. If you are sick and you have a happy mood, it doesn't matter too much. But if you have an unhappy mood, it matters much. Now, if you have more of a mental pain or suffering, like a type of depression, let's say type of depression, you are very unhappy, or maybe you are very fearful, or very uncertain, and let's say maybe you feel down or depressed. What real joy can all those sense objects now bring to you? How much joy do you have if you open the refrigerator? If you think on the cash or the money on your bank account? Or if you think you have wife and children, or you have a job? It doesn't really help you to overcome this depression. You don't feel happy about thinking about it. And then if you look on this relation, you can say physical happiness can never overpower mental unhappiness, while mental happiness can overpower physical unhappiness. So if you are mentally happy, it's not a big problem if you don't have enough money, if things don't work as you thought they should work or something like this. You can easily cope with it. It's not a real problem. And now if you look on the life of the Buddha, actually it's quite the same, and you can see here it even in a more radical way. The Buddha lived in a not a kingdom, it was I don't know what is the right term in English. Princeton? No.
Principality?
Something like this. It was Fürstentum, sagen wir.
Palace?
Yeah, he lived in a palace. But sometimes they say the Buddha was son of a king, but the scientists don't confirm this. He was something like a usually you have prince and princess, no?
Yeah.
Something like this, Fürstentümer, like Monaco. How is the English term for Monaco? It's not a kingdom, it's a
province.
Huh?
A province or a
Yeah, something like this. Yeah. So, but he lived in he lived in what to say? He lived in abundant richness, and he had everything, and he could enjoy all the pleasures and all the freedoms people have who have enough money, and he was also loved by his parents. He had good teachers, so everything was very nice from that perspective. And then he went into the forest later. And in the forest there is no refrigerator, there is no bed, there is no cover, there is no shower, no bathroom, no toilet, there is no toast, no coffee, no tea. But he found everything. How could this happen? He found it within. So, and this is quite of the radical approach within Buddhism, this perspective that you won't achieve the happiness you are looking for if you only strive for happiness on the physical level. It's better to invest time and effort to understand that true, lasting or more pervasive happiness arises from within, from the mind, and then to focus on the mind and train the mind that you cultivate an inner source of happiness which is independent from or almost independent from outer sources. And it would be useful already in the beginning to understand that mental happiness is more important than physical happiness, because most of the people and most of our time is related to finding happiness on the material level, and it will never give us the satisfaction and happiness we are really looking for. At the end, it might even feel just empty inside. And you can consume all of this, and at the end you only cultivate or develop certain types of addictions, but you won't achieve this type of happiness you are really looking for. And that's why it's useful to understand that true happiness comes from within and is related to the mental consciousness, mainly. But this doesn't mean that physical happiness or happiness which arises from the sense objects is no happiness. But this is happiness, but it's superficial, it's not long-lasting, and it is no source which gives you guarantee, if you consume it, to have really happiness. But those mental causes of happiness, they guarantee you for sure you will always be happy if you have this mental state. So actually we discriminate 3 types of happiness in Buddhism. I learned this from a Theravada monk. There is happiness arising from the enjoyment of the sense objects, and there is happiness arising from concentration, and there is the happiness arising from nirvana. These are the 3 types of happiness. And most of the people, they only know this type of happiness experienced in relation to the sense objects. But there are also people who don't follow spiritual path. They can enjoy the happiness arising from concentration. And concentration is a mental process, and is a happiness which goes along with concentration, is mental happiness. And it's quite interesting. There are happiness researchers. They found out human beings experience the most type of happiness if they have flow experience. Do you know this type of this term? Yeah. And actually it's nothing else than concentration. And you can have this type of experience of happiness arising from concentration if you drive by car with 200 kilometers per hour on the highway. Maybe it's not possible in Great Britain. No.
That'd be a cause for unhappiness.
But maybe you can, because if you have this, if you have the opportunity to drive a car with high speed,
you have to narrow down your focus to exactly what you are doing now. And this focus it brings you into concentration and into the presence, and you are fully aware of what's going on now. Because if you make a tiny error, this will have great consequences. So this setup pushes you to really focus you on the presence and what you are doing. And therefore concentration arises, and the result will be happiness. That's why some people like to drive very quick with their car. In Germany it's more, you can do it more easily if you want to have this. But it's a bit risky for others than yourself. You can have same experience also with in a more safe environment. If you do certain types of drawings, or if you do certain types of arts, you can have this flow experience. It can also happen if you go into the nature, or if you are on a boat or whatsoever. And then it often also happens if people do certain types of extreme physical exercise or extreme sports, extreme sports, like this type of climbing. No, you know, those people, they don't have what to say?
Harness.
Yeah, they don't have harness.
Yeah.
You know, they have their finger here, or two fingers, and they are on the rock, and below them is only somewhere far away the ground. And then actually what this brings you totally in connection to the present moment. You feel the muscles, you feel how you lose the contact, you look where is the next place I have to put my fingers. And due to this and this setup, you are totally focused and you are totally in the moment. Naturally, happiness will arise. And what you cannot really have at that time is worries or fear. If you really get fear in this moment, oh, this will be really hard. You can't move anymore. It will be really. But if you are in this state of concentration, you are flexible, you are at ease, you will enjoy it. It's crazy, but it's like this. So, and this is mental happiness. And this mental happiness arises not because you are with one finger you are in the rock, and below you is the, what do you say, it's only, how do you call it, this big
drop.
That drop. But you experience this happiness because you have a certain mental state, and this mental state is called concentration. And concentration is one mental factor of many which, wherever such a state arises, you experience either happiness or neutral feelings, but never ever unhappiness. It cannot arise at that moment. So now if you would have methods to just increase your level of concentration, what would be the result? The result would be you would feel well with yourself. You would be in the present moment and you would have plenty of happiness feelings. You would be a more happy person. So, and then those people, usually to experience this type of mental happiness, they bring themselves into situations which are extremely risky and also extremely dangerous. But you can achieve the same by just sitting on the cushion, and it is more safe. But the problem is, because it is less risky, your effort is a bit weak. That's why sometimes in the forest tradition, the Theravada monks, they even look for places where are nearby tigers, because this pushes them to go into a state of concentration. Or sometimes they also sit on precipices. Precipices.
Yeah.
Precipices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this pushes them to go into a state of concentration. But the funny point is, if Westerners push themselves, usually the meditation doesn't really work because you overbend it in a way. But sometimes extreme outer conditions can push you towards states of concentration, and then, but it's usually then very risky. And if you do it on a meditation session, on the meditation cushion, if you want to cultivate their concentration, sometimes you either, you push yourself too much, you don't attain the concentration, or you have too less effort and you also don't achieve it. So, but in the long run, it's of course safer or more safe to do it on a meditation cushion. You don't have to put yourself into extreme conditions. And then there are other states of mind which arise naturally, where you, for instance, you look on the ocean, or on the sea, or in the nature, or you just walk through the nature. And then suddenly you feel at ease, peaceful and happy. And you don't know really why. And the reason is because based on the condition of nature or the situation, you relaxed your mind and you allowed yourself to let go all those worries which usually occupy the mind, all those thoughts. And by just having this relaxed state of mind, you experience happiness. And the outer environment and the condition just triggers this mental state. So this happiness is not because of environment. It's because you relaxed your mind. And the happiness arising from extreme sports is not arising from extreme sports, but it's arising due to concentration. Of course, scientists say, no, the happiness arises due to, what is this type of?
Serotonin.
Serotonin?
Serotonin.
Serotonin. Buddhist perspective, it arises because you have this concentration. But this type of, this state of concentration might go along with certain physical appearances, like certain type of brain activities or certain types of chemical elements or whatsoever, an increase of certain type of chemical elements in your brain or whatsoever. But Buddhist understanding the happiness arises because there is concentration. So now, then usually you would conclude, no, I'm more happy or I achieve happiness by doing those extreme sports or by going into nature. But actually, the happiness is not so much based primarily on the outer conditions, but primarily on the state of mind, because you can do the same things without achieving the happiness. You can be on this, you can have your finger in this rock, no happiness. No? You can drive with very fast on the road, you can be in the nature, but no happiness arises. Why? Because you don't have either this relaxed mind or this focused or concentrated mind. So that's why we say it's primarily the mind what matters and is the causes of happiness, and outer conditions are only, secondary sources. But usually we think the outer condition are the primary sources for the happiness, and we don't consider that it's mainly inner conditions which create the happiness. So now if you understand this, then the question is, of course, if I want to use my life to fulfill my two wishes, to be more happy and to have less suffering, then actually my focus should go, or my effort should go more into the direction to cultivate a mind where there are a lot of causes for happiness, and then the result will be that I'm a happier person. To give another example, what we used in the meditation already, now imagine, for parents especially, sometimes it appears the cause of my happiness is the child. And you can even get addicted to your child, which brings some problems for you and the child. Because you cannot let go, you give not enough space to the child and so on. But because we want to be happy, and now we think the child is what makes me happy, you naturally have some pain if the child leaves your household, or if the child is not close to you. But then actually the child is not what makes you really happy. It's your affection and love and the way how you relate to your child which makes you happy. And you could have the same happiness if you could cultivate this attitude toward other sentient beings or also animals, to any living being, you would have exactly the same happiness. And then if you look more closely, of course, we are not always happy with our children. And then we even think the child is the cause of our problems. But actually, the cause of the problems is again how we relate to certain types of situations. The more we get aggressive, annoyed with the child, or the more our capacity to deal in a good way with our child decreases, the more inner stress we feel and the more pain arises. So our whole experience related to our child is mainly coming from our own mind and not from the child. But usually we contribute all those causes to the child, and we want either to change the child so that we feel better, or we cannot let go of the child because we want to be close to the child or to our children because they make us happy. But this brings only confusion in the relations, and it's wrong, it's not correct. Because the real happiness is our attitude. So now if we understand this, the more we have affection towards our child or towards our husband, wife, to our colleagues, and even to our chief, the more happier we are. And the more we are dominated by aggression or other negative states of mind like envy, the more unhappy we are. And if we understand this, then the conclusion could be, if I want to be happy and I want to have no suffering or lesser suffering, then actually what I have to do, I must train my mind. I have to use my human life to understand my mind better, my responses to environment better, and to change the way how I relate to other sentient beings and how I relate to the environment. Because my response to others and my response to environment determines if I'm happy or not. So then, what makes life meaningful is one of the questions of our day retreat today. The answer could be, or the Buddhist answer would be, and this answer claims to be in line with reality, a meaningful life would be a life where you really use the life to experience more happiness and less suffering. And you should have some results, whatever you do, that you really have a higher level of happiness and a lower level of suffering. Otherwise, it's meaningless, it's wasted. Because you do a lot of things without achieving what is really important for you. So a meaningful life would be therefore a life which is used in a way that you experience more happiness and less suffering. This would be something like a basic answer, and you can think if this makes sense to you or not. And because happiness arises from the mind mainly, and outer conditions only contribute or can contribute to happiness, the key focus of a meaningful life should be spiritual development, to cultivate a mind where qualities which lead to happiness increase and erroneous states of mind, or we call it destructive emotions, which are the causes of unhappiness, decrease. So this would be a meaningful life on a very basic level from Buddhist perspective. So now let's consider some of those qualities we could cultivate and some of those thoughts, and then we make a break, and then we continue with some topics related to it. And we do another meditation exercise. When we speak about mind, or when we speak about spiritual development is related to the mind. And mind is just a term. But mind is a very complex thing. it's a very complex phenomenon. And if we consider mind in Buddhist psychology, we speak about 6 main minds. I mentioned those already, the 5 sense consciousness and the mental consciousness, and 51 mental factors which can or always accompany these main minds. There are 5 mental factors which are always present, that's why they are called the omnipresent mental factors, like feeling. Feeling is pleasant feeling. There are 3 types of feelings, or what is meant with feeling are pleasant feelings, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feelings. And pleasant feeling is you want to continue. You have the natural wish that this feeling continues. This is the definition of a pleasant feeling. And an unpleasant feeling is you want to be separated from it. And neutral feeling is you neither want to be separated nor have the wish that it continues. All the perceptions we have, all main consciousness go along with feeling. So whatever we see, hear, taste, smell, and so on, is either experienced as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So, and then there are mental factors which are which disturb the mind, like aggression, or hostility, or grudge, or envy, or excitement. All those, we call them negative emotions, or negative emotions. They have only one function: they disturb the peace of mind, and wherever the peace of mind is disturbed, you have an unpleasant feeling. So now if you sit here and the mind is very agitated, it will feel unpleasant. But if you sit here and either you experience a relaxed mind, or you have a mind of concentration, this relaxed mind and the mind of concentration go along with mental peace. And that's why you have a pleasant feeling. And concentration is one of those 51 mental factors. There are more mental factors which give happiness, or which go along with pleasant feelings, like love. I have to say love in Buddhism, love means the wish either to be happy yourself or the wish that others are happy. Love is not I like this or I like that, because this is rather attachment. I need this or that object to be happy. This has more to do with what to say. Love focuses on reality in that way. I want to be happy, others want to be happy. To wish that I'm happy or that others are happy is in line with reality. A love for others is mainly that others experience well-being and are happy. It's naturally what a mother feels towards her child or towards her children. But attachment is you see an object and think this makes me happy or this person makes me happy, and you want to have this object or want to be close to this person and not want to be separated from it. And this is not love, because at that moment you are only interested in your own happiness and you cling to an object to fulfill this happiness. While love focuses really on the needs of others, or the deeper needs of others, and your own needs, just to be happy. So, and wherever love arises in you, you have pleasant feeling. Whenever affection arises in you, we have a pleasant feeling. Whenever concentration arises in you, you have a pleasant feeling. So there are mental factors which naturally go along with pleasant feelings. And the more you cultivate those mental factors, the more happier you are. And then there are mental factors which go along with unpleasant feelings, like grudge, aversion, aggression, envy. And the more you're experiencing those, the more unpleasant feelings you have. Now the funny point is, happiness and unhappiness are just terms attached to those types of feelings. The more pleasant your feelings are, if you experience some type of object, you call it happiness. And the more unpleasant those feelings are, you call it unhappiness. So the more you increase your concentration, the more your pleasant feeling increases, until you achieve a point where it is not labeled anymore happiness, but it's called bliss. And the negative emotions, the more your aggression increases, or the more your envy increases, the more also the unhappiness feeling, the mental unhappiness feeling increases. So now you can use those types of understanding, and this is what Buddhism is all about, to cultivate your mind, to increase those factors which go along with pleasant feelings and give you happiness, and you can decrease those factors which go along with unpleasant feelings and increase your unhappiness. And for all those negative states of mind, or those destructive emotions or negative emotions, there are always opposite positive responses you can cultivate. I give you an example and then we make a break. Let's take envy. The thing is, if you feel envy, as soon as envy arises, as soon you are unhappy. Envy has only one purpose: to destroy your happiness immediately. And you achieve nothing with this envy. Neither do you achieve that the other person loses what you are envy of. Nor you destroy this thing, you only destroy your own happiness. You don't change the situation to the better, you just make yourself unhappy. And the opposite positive quality to envy is rejoicing. And this makes you happy. Now imagine a mother who loves her child. When the child achieves something which is important to the child and the child is happy, the mother naturally rejoices in the happiness and the condition the child is experiencing. And the more the mother rejoices, the more the mother is herself. The more happy the mother is herself. And the same is true if we have a good friend. And maybe we don't have a job, we are jobless, and we long for a job, but then our best friend got a job. If our love is really genuine and deep, we can rejoice, I'm so happy for you, and we can really feel it. But it could be we are overcome by envy at that moment. And actually it's not good for us, and it's not good for our friend, and it's not good for the relation, because it's not good if our best friend cannot take delight in our own happiness, because friendship actually means also to share the happiness. So, but if we would use our life to rejoice in all the happiness people experience, we naturally would be a happier person. But if we don't train, and if we don't use our life to oppose this natural response of envy, it will carry us away, and we will experience again and again unhappiness, and we will have those negative effects very much in our lives. Where if we take responsibility for our mind and train it not to respond anymore too much with envy, but train to respond with rejoicing in the happiness of others, then of course our experience of life, or how we experience circumstances, tremendously change. And this is the way how you make your life meaningful. You train your mind to find ways of response to yourself, to others and life, which make you more happy. And by understanding that those negative responses don't help you to achieve what you actually want to achieve, happiness and freedom from pain and unhappiness. So then a meaningful life could be to use now, our lifetime we still have, to train the mind. With the methods, and the methods here in Buddhism we are called the Dharma, what the Buddha taught. Because from Buddhist perspective, the Buddha is, he is the expert in how to achieve happiness and how to overcome suffering. This is quite of an interesting point before we make the break. You won't find any being really in the world, except maybe some crazy people, who say, I have achieved all the happiness and I have abandoned all the suffering. The Buddha said it. And he lived it. His students or disciples, they got to know him day by day in situations of crisis. Different times the Buddha was tried to be killed. There were split in the orders. There were so many problems at that time. But the Buddha was able to go through all those situations and didn't manifest any anger, any state of being upset, and so on. So the Buddha claims, I have fulfilled these two wishes, which everybody of us has. So in the beginning we start to look, I want to be happy, I want to be free from suffering. The Buddha says, I have attained this. Now find a human being in this world who says, I have also attained it. And I show you the way. And then find a person who really lives it. Very hard to find. Now, in Buddhism we say, we have this being, we call this person a Buddha, and whoever has fulfilled those wishes is a Buddha for us. So it's not only related to this one person, but he is the expert where all these teachings come from. We will focus today on, or the methods come from, where we can explore or investigate if these are useful methods, valid methods, do they really help us to fulfill those two wishes. So the interesting point is we have a human life. We understand we have those wishes. We also understand whatever we did so far didn't really work that well. And now we have an expert, the Buddha, who says, I have the same wishes and I have achieved the fulfillment of those wishes and I know the way. And I tell you the way. So, and then the Buddha introduced the way to achieve those two wishes, and all those methods the Buddha explained we call the Dharma. And the Buddha also said you should not just believe in those methods or become a believer of the Buddha, but you really should check, is this method valid? Is this explanation valid? Does it make sense? And if I apply this mental method to overcome suffering and to increase my happiness, does it really work? And only if you really proved and checked it and it's valid for you, then you apply the method, and then hopefully a change will come.